right, guys, for our final topic of the show, we had what old school football fans would consider a phenomenal hit on Trevor Lawrence by Azeez Al-Shaair over the weekend as Jacksonville took on the Houston Texans, and what some people are calling an out-of-pocket dirty hit. In my opinion, it was a bang-bang play for sure, but the way he kind of led with where his elbow just kind of drove Trevor Lawrence's head into the turf. To me, that was kind of a cheap shot, and that's why I looked at it more like, hey, that is something that he should be disqualified for. When you saw the play, Julio, I'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts on that play, the hit, and as a result of that hit? Al-Shaair has been suspended for 3 games. So, what were your thoughts on the play when you saw it? Do you think it was egregious, and do you think that the punishment of 3 games is justified?
Well, my initial reaction to that hit was, of course, I'm pretty sure, like everybody else's here, was as soon as you saw the hit, you were like, "Ooh, that was bad." But um, being an ex-defensive player that played the sport, it was something that kind of came with the territory at during that time. Right now, I know the league is more modern. Rules have changed. Certain things you can't do anymore that you were able to do back then. And I understand that the rules are in place for the player safety, right? To make sure that there's longevity for these players to where they can play longer, to where it avoids serious injuries that have been well documented before in the NFL, where some players, even after their time in the NFL, have still suffered from those injuries and are unable to do certain things because of that. So I understand why the rules are in place and why they're there. Was the consequences for the actions that the player took egregious? I don't think so, especially with the league the way that it is now. Um, the rules that are put in place, the rules are put in place for a reason. I understand from a defensive standpoint, as an ex-defensive guy, would I have done something similar? I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and be like, no, because like every athlete, when you go out to play, you go out to play at 100%. You go
Mm-hmm.
to lay your body on the line 100, if not 200% on the field and leave everything on the field. That was one of the mentalities that was passed down from generations to generations, that whenever you go out and you play as hard as you can possibly play, you hit as hard as you can possibly hit. You do all the things that you need to do to make sure that you leave basically your mark on that football field as you're playing the game. So, from a defensive standpoint, again, something that I would have probably done as well, but with the league being where it's at now, with the rules that are in place, you kind of have to show some sort of respect for that. I think for me, what kind of made me think that it was a dirty hit was the fact that you see that he was already committed to the slide. There are times where you see some
That's the
other,
emphasis of the debate
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Is a lot of old school people are of the mindset of, well, what was he supposed to do? Give up the first down? Like Trevor Lawrence was late on the slide,
yeah,
so it was Trevor Lawrence's fault that he got hit the way he did
yeah,
because he gave up his body too late.
yeah. And I think because they're starting to teach some of these quarterbacks now to kind of feint the slide, like they're going to slide, that's what causes the issue. If you're going to slide, commit to it to where you can obviously tell that somebody's going to slide. If you do this half-ass, I'm about to slide, but I'm not sure if I'm going to slide.
That's a
Be
stupid way to get
prepared.
yourself hurt.
Be prepared to get hit. Because as a defender, if I see that you're feigning and that it doesn't look like a slide to me, trust me, I'm going to drive all 320 pounds of myself through your fucking body to make sure that you don't make that first down. That's just me. But if if you're sitting there and I see that you've already committed and you're sliding already, basically at that point, yeah, I'm just going to touch you, make sure that you're down, and that's it. That play's done and it's over with. But if you try to do any of this late slide at the very end, right before you're going to get hit, that again, just like you finished saying, that is a clear indication that you're going to take a hit and it's going to be a bad hit at that. Because if you have a 240-pound, even hell, 180-pound cornerback or safety coming down on you full speed from
Full
10 yards
speed.
deep, you expect him to just be able to stop on a dime
And
without hitting you?
pull
Sorry.
up, or like try and
Hey,
jump
I do
over
feel like he
you.
kind of
And
lost himself though.
Yeah. Well, he did launch himself. He left his feet. So again, I do think that the consequences do fit the severity of the hit. To a certain extent, I do think that the hit was dirty. Um, but again, that's how some of us were brought up to play, and other people weren't. And you kind of just have to change with the times now that you have these new rules in place. So
yep.
yeah, I think that the suspension was valid for what he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay, what about you, man? When you saw that play, what did you think? And is the punishment warranted? The 3-game suspension
It looked terrible when I saw it.
in full
And
speed, it looked horrific.
Bro.
right.
Like it had. I mean, I'm sorry to kind of throw this out there, but it had 2 of T vibes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But again, when you're playing football, you're told you're gonna get hit and it's gonna feel like a car crash. And people are running at you at full speed. If you can't handle that, don't play the game. And I'm not saying that, because we saw what happened when Troy Aikman got concussed game after game after game. When hits like that were illegal, and you couldn't do anything about it. But I was watching Get Up this morning, and they broke it down as to why. Read the letter of suspension online or on air, to basically say that like he was a repeat offender of hits like this, and worse hits as well. And this is why he got a 3-game suspension, which is, if you're a repeat offender and you know the rules now, like you need to adjust your play to make sure that you're not going to get hit with a suspension or a fine, you know? And
I
at
mean,
some point,
he is known for bringing the wood. Pause.
No Diddy.
But that's kind of like I look at that, but I look at guys like remember Roy Williams, Troy
yeah,
Polamalu.
yeah,
You know,
Ryan Clark,
more recent Ryan Clark, as opposed to guys. I don't want to go back and be like Steve Atwater, Ronnie Lott. I mean, it's not that. But the Palomalus, the Roy Williams,
Yeah.
those guys, Dawkins, those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like those guys were gonna, if they had an opportunity, they're gonna light you up.
they're
Ed
gonna hit
Reed.
you.
Yeah.
Ed Reed, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like
Their
those
job
guys are gonna
was
light you up.
their
Yeah.
job was to decleat you. Yes.
There,
And
there has to be a way to clean up, like you said, Julio, the quarterback running,
Mm-hmm.
because if you want him to not be a runner, then say something where if they pass the line of scrimmage, the ball's down. I mean, I don't know, but he was
And
treating him like a runner.
and if
You
not,
don't
I
see
mean,
running backs getting that same grace or wide receivers. It just
exactly. And in my opinion, if you're a quarterback and you're going to run, it's better for you to know how to run and protect yourself than to run and leave yourself vulnerable to a
wide
massive
open.
hit like that.
Right.
there's running towards the sideline and then there's running in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And he was in the middle of the field.
Right.
Yep.
And that's, I don't know, man. I'll probably catch a lot of shit for this, but I just think the NFL has been pussified a little bit as far as these hits go, and I'm not, I'm not big on seeing people get hurt, but it is football at the end of the day. Like, we all played it, we all knew the risk, we all have a little bit of CTE in us. I know I do for sure from
I don't
getting
think we
hit.
knew the full risk like we know now.
Yeah.
Like we knew, oh, I might get a bone broken or I might get a headache.
I mean, we all,
I
Something.
might
but
get concussed just a little bit.
we
Yeah.
knew where the headache came from. We knew it was
Right.
from getting your bell
But
rung.
we didn't know it
It causes
just
bigger
completely
issues.
damaged
Yeah.
your brain and made you
Yeah.
forget who you were and where you were in the
Yeah.
future if it was bad enough.
Yeah,
And I think that's what the NFL is trying to do is bring that. I know for a long time they tried to keep it under wraps. At least that's what you see in some of the like that movie that Will Smith did. I think what was it called?
The
Where
pursuit
he's
of
like a doctor.
happiness.
No. Where he's a doctor for the NFL or doing an investigation in the NFL. I know you know which one I'm talking about.
had a
Yes.
terrible African
Yeah.
accent. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that one. So, I mean, of course, they try to bring it to light now that the NFL was kind of keeping it under wraps for a long time, especially with the older generations, where they would take massive hits, and then
Oh,
after
it's called concussion, guys.
concussion. Well, there you go. Well, when that movie came out, it kind of brought that to light that the NFL was kind of keeping that under wraps. That's why you saw so many players after the fact, old players that couldn't remember certain things, had brain damage, things of that nature,
I think,
because of all the hits that they were taking.
and
So
I think what started that was the whole Junior Seau thing.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
yeah,
when he took his own life,
yeah,
yeah,
that definitely was the
eye
catalyst
opening.
for what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
right.
very eye opening. So I don't think us growing up, we really understood the risk. I think it's brought up more now as far as a safe way to hit somebody, things of that nature. I remember there were times where I was taught to put the crosshairs of the face mask in somebody's chest and drive
Mm-hmm.
them into the ground. That's the way
Mm-hmm.
that I was taught to tackle someone. And
Yep.
now watching my, nephews and you know, cousins and whatnot, the younger ones that are playing ball now, growing up, they're like, no, you can't lead with your face mask anymore. You have to lead with your shoulder, and you have to tackle with your shoulder. And I'm like, why the hell would you tackle that way? You need to tackle with your face mask
You
to
can't
where you
hit what
can
you can't see.
exactly. And it's like it irritates me because, of course, we were taught a certain way, which was more, and I'll be honest, it was more savage. It was more violent the way that we used to hit, each other or other peers that we had playing against. It was way more savage. I couldn't tell you how many times I actually did get my bell rung and blacked out for a couple of seconds right before
Mm-hmm.
I came back to for the next play, but
All stars.
never really thought back into it to be like, oh, that's what causes sometimes for me to forget or something like that. Never really think about that. So
It didn't matter.
you don't really see the long term effects that it can cause somebody from taking those kinds of hits. And I think that now that not only the NFL but the little leagues now are taking that into consideration more. That's why they implement all these new rules because they're like, this is why some players don't last as long. This is why we have players that are, again, you just mentioned the great Junior Seau that took his own life because
Mm-hmm.
of taking so many hits and basically going off of his rocker. It's it's a sad thing to see. And of course, we don't, as a football player, as an ex player, you don't really like to see people to get hurt. I mean, you love to see big hits. Trust me. If there's anybody here on the podcast that loves to see a great hit, I love to see big hits. I used to love watching Ray Lewis annihilate a wide receiver coming across the middle of the field trying to catch a ball in his area, and he would just annihilate that player, literally take him out of the game. But I hate to see when players actually get hurt, and I mean hurt to the point to where they have to be carted off of the field.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling for any player on the field because you don't want to see that. You want to be able to be violent, but you don't want to see it to that extent to where you see somebody get hurt to the point to where they're unable to play for the remainder of the game or for the remainder of their life. You never know. You might have just taken somebody out and they can never play again because of how hard you hit them. So it's a sad thing.
At any level, that is kind of tough to watch, to see someone carted off the field. But again, like some of these hits, you gotta allow. And I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence hit, you have to allow it, but like at some point we're gonna end up being touch football, 2-hand touch below the waist. That's what it's gonna turn into. And I don't want to see. I'm not trying to see professional football like that. I wouldn't watch it, to be honest, if it turned into something like that. It's tackle football.
I don't think the game will ever get to that point, but I do think that, you know, with all the awareness that the society has now, the damage that it does to the body and to the mind. Julio, you mentioned, hey, it's kind of like being in the car wreck. Well, it's actually like every time there's a play as an interior lineman, every play is like a car crash.
Yep.
So you're looking at 60 to 70 car crashes that you're in per game. So it's the fact that there's awareness and the fact that they care about players' safety. I'm 100% on board with that. The 3-game suspension, I don't think was justified. I could see 1 or 2 games, but 3 games
without
and Houston's kind of in the mix. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's a little heavy-handed, but I also think after what Tua, like I said, bring back Tua, what Tua's been through, and now seeing this with another young face in the NFL, the NFL is going to have to make an example out of somebody. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
No,
you're not wrong.
Not wrong.
But like I said,
so they're just like, okay, this is the guy that it has to be, because this is the most egregious thing you could see out there.
I think there was like 6 or 7 different incidences where he was fined for big hits.
Yeah, I think this was not his first time having this kind of incident happen. So I'm pretty sure that the NFL took that into consideration. Like Jay said, you know, this was maybe his 3rd or 4th time of him having a fine for a big hit like that. And now it's gotten to the point to where, okay, we've already fined you more than a couple of times. And obviously you're not getting the message that this is not the way that we expect our players to play. We will expect you to play to be more mindful as far as, you know, being safer with your peers around here, even though that they are an opponent. You still need to be mindful of that and not try to take somebody out for the remainder of the season or for the remainder of their career. So again, just like you said, the NFL had to take matters into their own hands and be like, we need to make an example out of somebody. And it just so happens that we're getting somebody that's been a previous offender before. So there you go. Now this is why you get your 3-game suspension at this point.
Very well said, Julio. Very well said. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do want to thank you so much for just taking the time to watch these videos and spend time with us. We do ask that you please continue to like, comment, subscribe, interact with us, and tell your friends about the show. Help us grow the show. So until then, we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.